The Yakuza series has gone through some big changes over the last 15 years. From its humble PS2 origins, it sparked 6 sequels, 1 prequel, multiple spin-offs, and 2 remakes. Now, the PS3 era of the series, 3, 4, and 5, has been brought into the modern day with 1080p and 60 FPS remasters for the PS4. Are these games still worth our time, or are they best remembered as stepping stones towards the modern iterations of the Yakuza series? Yakuza 3. Upon its original release, Yakuza 3 was a humongous step forward in graphics and gameplay over its predecessor, Yakuza 2. In PS2-era Yakuza titles, fixed camera angles, blocky graphics, and blurry visuals limited both the environmental immersion and gameplay potential. Yakuza 3's massive generational leap in graphics, animation, and gameplay is critical to keep in mind for those who have only played the latter-day titles. This entry is an earlier version of the Yakuza we know and love, and there's still a lot of rough edges to be polished. In Yakuza 3, the Tojo clan is in crisis. The Dragon of Dojima, Kazuma Kiryu, has fully retired from the Yakuza world to run an orphanage in Okinawa. Unfortunately, a billion-yen land deal has put his orphanage in the middle of a Tojo clan civil war. Fighting to protect the children in his care, Kiryu returns to Kamurocho to save his orphanage, and in doing so, reshape the future of the Tojo clan forever. Yakuza 3's storytelling shares the same robust mix of heart-wrenching melodrama and goofy weirdness as the other titles in the series, along with an absurd amount of side content and minigames. Here, however, the pacing is slightly off. These momentum issues are primarily due to the heartwarming sections of the game that I came to think of as Yakuza Dad. As the head of the orphanage, Kiryu is determined to raise these children right. And as the person holding the controller, you are too, for better or worse. Heartwarming, maybe, but the Yakuza Dad sections can be a slog. For 2010, the fully explorable open-world spaces are quite impressive. That said, the upgrade to 1080p resolution makes blurry textures stand out much more, and the models of most NPCs don't come close to the overall detail of the main characters. Combat is also more primitive than you might be used to. As you wander the streets, a variety of gang members, ruffians, and low-level Yakuza will pick fights with you, which has always struck me as the most unbelievable thing in any Yakuza game. Who in their right mind sees Kazuma Kiryu and thinks, hey, that granite-faced boulder of a man looks like easy pickings? I did find that there were many more QuickTime events built into the combat this time around, which could be a good thing or bad thing depending on how quick you are on the trigger. There is also much more blood in this game than in future entries. Enemies look considerably worse for wear after a fight here than in modern Yakuza titles, both because of the blood and the polygon count. Despite occasional moments of dated gameplay, I entirely understand why developers opted for a remaster of Yakuza 3 rather than a full Kiwame-style remake. It simply feels like a modern entry of the series. Everything we know and love is here, it's just in an earlier state. Still, I had an excellent time making my way through this piece of Yakuza history. Yakuza 4. While Yakuza 4 doesn't quite match the level of innovation found in Yakuza 3, it does provide the gameplay foundation for some of the best future titles in the series. In Yakuza 4, the Tojo clan is in crisis. With the clan weakened by recent events, rival clans look to take advantage by moving into the Tojo territory of Kamurocho. The plot unfolds through the stories of 4 different protagonists: Akiyama, a loan shark with a heart of gold; Tanimura, a corrupt cop with a heart of gold; and Saejima, a convicted murderer on death row with a heart of gold. Together, they uncover a web of betrayal, murder, and tragedy that will reshape the future of the Tojo clan forever. And then Kiryu shows up for some reason. Look, I understand why developers want Kiryu to be included in Yakuza 4. After all, he is the face of the franchise, but his presence here feels entirely unnecessary. Our new protagonists fill his shoes quite nicely, giving us a fresh perspective on the world of Kamurocho. But once Kiryu shows up, they're mostly forgotten. I wish the developers had dared to leave everything in the hands of our new protagonist, with Kiryu featuring only in a brief Yakuza Dad cameo at the orphanage rather than a main character. Despite my enjoyment of the new protagonist, I did find that the split focus interrupted the flow of the overall plot. While each character's story starts strong in the individual chapters, everything goes completely off the rails by the end of the game, juggling way too many tangents focused on police corruption and the betrayal of triple agents. You might think that the biggest innovation in Yakuza 4 is the addition of multiple playable characters, but I would argue that it's the introduction of different combat styles that had a larger impact on the series as a whole. Up until now, we were stuck with Kiryu's dragon style, but now, depending on the character, we have a quick but weak style, a strong but slow style, and a style built around dodging. This livens up the combat substantially, primarily because you can't simply rely on Kiryu's tiger drop to dominate in every battle, at least not until the last chapter. With a few exceptions, the minigames and graphics of Yakuza 4 are almost identical to Yakuza 3, which is understandable because they use the same engine. Textures are still blurry, pedestrians sport the same stiff walking animation, and NPCs and random enemies continue to have blocky and poorly rendered faces. That said, I walked away from Yakuza 4 having had a much more fulfilling experience than I did with its immediate predecessor. The different combat styles brought new life to the never-ending street brawls, and the overall presentation really delivered a new level of polish to the series. But it's in the next game where things really take off. Yakuza 5. Yakuza 5 is generally considered to be a high-water mark for the series, and it's easy to see why. I've rarely seen a game that packs in so much content, even compared to the other installments. In Yakuza 5, the Tojo clan is in crisis. After the Tojo chairman goes missing, Kiryu, now a cab driver, is pulled back into the criminal underworld he so desperately tried to escape. Meanwhile, Kiryu's adopted daughter, Haruka, is an up-and-coming idol in Sonobori, hiding her connection to her Yakuza dad. Partnered with returning protagonist Saejima Nakayama, along with newcomer Shinada, a disgraced former pro baseball player, they will untangle a web of conspiracy that will reshape the future of the Tojo clan forever. Yakuza 5 brings an updated game engine to the mix, and in many ways, it's a significant jump from the previous two games. The graphics have gotten a major upgrade, looking much more like a modern entry of the series. On the gameplay side, combat feels better than ever. NPCs no longer look like refugees from a PS2 game, and the animations are much smoother and realistic, both in and out of combat. That said, the new engine is incredibly buggy. NPC behavior has gone from kinda stupid to astoundingly dumb as they walk into and through walls, obstacles, each other, and your character. Additionally, the dialogue camera isn't as smooth as it used to be, often getting stuck at weird angles and blocking the view of one or more characters during cutscenes. If memory serves, these game engine issues were mostly ironed out by Yakuza 0, but it would have been nice if they went back and fixed them up for this remaster. As in the fourth game, characters have a variety of combat styles, some more enjoyable than others. I personally found that newcomer Shinada's combat style, focused mostly on tackling and weapons, was the least fun. The combat system still doesn't offer the enjoyment of being able to switch styles on the fly, but it certainly provides enough depth and variety to keep every battle from feeling like the same old thing. And then we come to Haruka's chapters. If the combination of the words karaoke minigame and core gameplay mechanics lights your fire, I have great news for you. For the life of me, I can't figure out why they couldn't have given Haruka a genuine combat style. Her adopted father is the Dragon of Dojima, for God's sake. Surely at some point she expressed some curiosity to Kiryu about how to kill a man with a bicycle? Much to my surprise, her sections quickly became one of my favorite parts of the game. The gameplay suddenly taking a hard left turn into an idle simulator is exactly the kind of insanity that I expect from Yakuza. Haruka's fights aren't just basic minigames either, like darts or table hockey. Dance and idle battles are just as complex as the other characters' combat styles, only in a completely different genre. It even adapts the heat system used to pull off special dance moves to destroy your opponent, exactly like how Kiryu might repeatedly jump on a man's face, only with added jazz hands. There is some overuse of idle songs like So Much More, and Earworm so potent that it will likely be playing in my head until I reach Yakuza 7, but on the whole, the music is simply wonderful. Yakuza 5 simply stuns with the sheer amount of stuff in it. Every Yakuza game has an abundance of short stories and minigames, but this entry takes it to an absurd length, with a cab driver simulator, racing game, hunting sim, baseball sim, and of course, all of Haruka's sections. Moreover, almost none of this content feels half-baked. Racing on the highways is incredibly exciting. The detailed baseball batting mechanics of Shinada make trips to the batting cage more fun than ever, and the joy of getting into hand-to-hand combat with a bear speaks for itself. It's difficult to put into words the value being offered with the Yakuza Remastered collection. These are some of the finest games of their generation, now packaged together and looking and playing better than ever. I spent well over 150 hours making my way through these melodramatic and often absurd games, and I loved every minute of it. There were laughs, tears, broken faces, and a hell of a lot of dancing. In other words, quintessential Yakuza. And now that I've seen everything the series offered in the past, I'm even more excited to see where it goes in the future. So, did you play Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 when they were first released? Or are you a newcomer to Yakuza? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, or hit the bell below. Be sure to visit us on social media and Twitch, and for all of your news and reviews, check us out on RPGFan.com.